Hello and welcome back to part 7. This is video 7 of the 8-part video series I'm calling 2022 Let's Preptober Together. Hi, I'm Kimberly Grymes, a science fiction and fantasy writer and author of Isildas, also the companion novella, The Red Umber Forest, and several published short stories. I'll leave the details of each in the description below so we can jump right into this video. Yup, that's right, part 7. We're starting the last week of Preptober before NaNoWriMo starts next week. I can't believe it's already been a whole month. A quick recap of what this series is all about. I'm using my Preptober checklist from my Etsy shop to plan out my NaNoWriMo writing project. This is an 8-part video series, so if you haven't watched the previous videos, I recommend checking out the first 6 videos because it goes over for each week and we're kind of following it in order. There's so much pressure to write amazing first drafts when you first draft a story. I love hearing writers remind other writers that a first draft is your draft. I absolutely love that because it's true. A first draft is basically you just spewing out the story. It's not meant to be read by critique partners, beta readers, even family or friends. Not yet. It's meant for you to take the ideas that you've compiled, whether you've outlined or not, and just write something, anything. Just get the beginning out, the beginnings of the workings. Whatever you write during NaNoWriMo or anytime you sit down to write, regardless of the time of the year, write the story however you feel it needs to happen. You can always do the molding part and the editing part later. You will be back at some point to edit and even rewrite if necessary. But you can't do any of that if you don't have anything to go back to. Writing a story takes multiple drafts. Multiple. Don't worry about grammar, punctuation, spelling, even paragraphs. Just write. However you want to write, just write. Okay, I just wanted to say all that because we're getting so close to the end of this Preptober and has been such a wonderful video experience for me. So I really hope that you guys have gotten something good out of it too. Just a quick reminder too, that the Preptober checklist is just guidelines. You do not have to strictly follow this checklist to prep your story, any story, NaNoWriMo or otherwise. But I do hope that it helps you kind of organize your thoughts and kind of helps you, move along in outlining and prepping your story. Okay, continuing. The 2 checkboxes I will be tackling this final week, the last week of Preptober, are taking the chapter outline one step further and writing out the chapter summaries. And then also the dreaded story description. Everybody hates this part, right? Writing out your synopsis, your elevator pitch, and your blurb. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so chapter outline, take your outline one step further, write out each chapter with a short summary of what happens in the chapter or scene. Write them out in a doc, in one doc, or create a doc for each chapters. Or you can write it out by hand, whichever. So this is optional. Last week we did the elaborate outline, and a lot of people will use their outline to use as a reference when they write their story. Going a step further and writing summaries for each scene or each chapter is just one step further that you can go to help you write your story. I started to write out my pink notebook. I started to write out all of the scenes again. I got about a little over halfway and I felt like it was very repetitive of my elaborate outline, the one I did with the 17 scene story outline. But that's totally fine because as I was writing it, new ideas were coming. That act of rewriting your scenes, your story ideas, number one, helps keep the story fresh in your mind, but also, again, you may decide to change things, you may get new ideas. While I was rewriting my scene outline, my summaries, I came up with my short story title. I titled it The Reserved Witch. I also came up with the names for the two the villages, Village A and Village B. And so the little details, start to come into play now when you're writing the summary outline. So the chapter outline, the summary for each scene or each outline, each chapter is completely up to you. You can use this time as a buffer if you hadn't finished doing your elaborate outline last week. We still have 3 more checkboxes to go for our last week of Preptober before NaNoWriMo. So, if you decide you want to rewrite your notes, that's awesome. If you decide you're good with your elaborate outline, that's good too. You could rewrite it in a notebook. You could do it, like I said earlier, in a Word or a Google Doc or somewhere, chapter by chapter. You can create a file specifically for chapter 1 and then do the summary at top, and then another one for chapter 2, and then another 3, and then you save them all in your file doc so they're nice and organized. Scrivener is a great option where everything is in one doc and you can see the chapter, right there on the side. I've done this for other stories, this whole Preptober process, but not during Preptober. And because I'm a plantser, kind of half plotter, half pantser, my stories tend to shift, at some point because I get ideas. My ADHD is like, no, I want it to go this way. So then I just take a break and just kind of remap my story, which is totally okay. It happens. But you don't want to do that during NaNoWriMo. You don't want to stop and rework your outline, rework everything during NaNoWriMo. That's what your notebook or journal is for. If you have an idea about a change of direction, write your thoughts down in your notebook. You can continue writing the story with that new idea, but don't take away from your NaNoWriMo writing time to rewrite your outlines. I mean, you could, no one is forcing you not to, but just consider, all the writing time that you might be losing. You want to keep moving forward. Okay, let's jump into that second checkbox in the last week, week 4. Writing synopsises for your pitches and blurbs for the back of the book are some of the hardest things writers have to do. Well, for me it is. But the more I do them, the easier they kind of get. Okay, maybe I might be lying, but I try to be optimistic. Okay, let's try writing some synopsis, blurbs, and elevator pitches. Yay! So checkbox 2 for week 4 is your story description. Write out your 1-page synopsis, your elevator pitch, and your book blurb. These are all very important parts of the publishing process. Even if you're not going the traditionally published route, if you're planning on self-publishing, I still highly recommend writing out that 1-page synopsis. Consider it like an outline, except you're writing it in paragraph format. And you want to make sure that you are giving details to what's happening in the story, but you're also not overwhelming or confusing who's ever reading the synopsis. So you might want to leave out, certain terminology, certain, country names, location names, anything, and just keep it really simple. Your book blurb, which is your book's description found on the back of the book, or for hardcover, sometimes it's on the inside dust jacket. But the book blurb is also a very important part of the publishing process. You want to make sure that your book blurb is short. It's not the 1-page synopsis. It's got to fit on the back of the book. And again, you want to keep things simple because these potential readers who are picking up and reading your book blurb, don't overwhelm them with people's names, people's names are okay, but like you know, if you have a science fiction, don't overwhelm them with certain race names, certain planet names. Don't overwhelm them with country names if you're writing fantasy. You know, you just want to keep things simple. You want to get to the point. You want to make sure they know what the story is about. They can learn all about the world building once they start reading, but you want to get them hooked to what the story is about. As for the elevator pitch or your really quick one-liner that when somebody says, "What's your book about?" I heard from another author, I can't recall her name, but she recommended that you think of it like the quick description under a movie on Netflix or HBO or Disney Plus or whatever, that those 1 or 2 lines underneath the movie to really hook the viewer into wanting to watch this movie or TV show. So really try to encompass your story in 1 or 2 lines. What is your character plot? What is your story plot? What is the reader going to get when they read your book? That is the task at hand, to write out the 1-page synopsis, your elevator pitch, and your book blurb. For this checkbox story description, because it's a short story and I will be using it later down the road once I write the novel, because the short story will be the magnet reader. So I don't necessarily have to write a synopsis or a back book blurb. An elevator pitch I might come up with. But again, all this stuff is on the checklist is optional, and it's a guideline, and you use it how you can to help you prepare yourself for writing your story. So I feel really good. Check, done. 2 more check boxes and NaNoWriMo is right around the corner. I can't believe it. I think I'm more in that 2022 is coming to a close. Literally like 2 months left in this year. Crazy. So, all right. Thank you again for watching the 2022 Let's Preptober Together video series. Be sure to check out my books and short stories either in Goodreads, Amazon, and my author website, where I have excerpts to all my published stories. And don't forget to show some love for this video, ring that bell, stay in the loop for future videos. And of course, keep reading, keep writing, and keep moving forward.